Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast. And we're back with one more of my marketing and money series here in the month of March. And listen, I got to tell you this, folks. You have heard me year after year bring on marketing folks. We're going to be doing a lot of money folks. And a lot of what we talk about is external marketing. What do we do when we're out there trying to grab people to us? But a lot of times you got to do some internal stuff. You got to do some branding. And Uncle Marv's branding is back here behind me. If you're watching this video, if you're listening by audio, you've probably seen it here. So, of course, I had to bring back one of the wonderful people on our channels that is very great at branding and talking about image. I'm talking about Lisa Shorr, the renowned personal and corporate brand coach. She's got a new book, Your Brand Unleashed. So, with that, let's welcome Lisa Shorr from Shorr Success. How are you, Lisa?
Hey, I am so happy to be back. Thank you so much. Love your branding in the background there. Love it.
Thanks for coming back. And I learn something from you every now and then. I mean, I do have an autographed copy of your book, so thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. More than my pleasure.
Let's go ahead and at least let the listeners know that, this isn't all you do. You are actually part owner in Secure Future Tech Solutions, an MSP, an IT consulting firm.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how you kind of started this, and I'll let you tell that story real quick because I was going to say something. I'm like, ooh, I better watch how I say it.
Well, so thank you again for having me on, and I definitely am someone in this channel who eats, sleeps, and breathes branding. My degree is in marketing. I'm a certified image consultant. I've been marketing my MSP for over 26 years. But I learned a lot about branding and there's different facets of branding. You've got your logo, you've got your company colors, you've got the external side of branding, which is critical to marketing success. And I love that your theme this month is marketing and money because the two are synonymous with each other. I today want to talk about the other side of branding, which is the personal branding. The personal brands in an MSP build those corporate brands and they build those marketing relationships. When the leads come in, you need to have those human interactions to convert those leads, to build trust in those relationships. Well, as you were asking, my MSP, I became an image consultant because, well, my MSP was fired. And we got fired more than a decade ago. So I started my journey as an image consultant because of this experience. And we were fired because we actually had the honor of an exit interview. You don't get that very often, but this particular client was a client of 10 years. Get that? 10 years. And we didn't realize that our phone skills were atrocious. And they said, the buyer said to us, every time we call your office, your team acts as if they have no idea who we are. They don't say our name. We have to repeat our problem every single time. And we were like, that had nothing to do with technical skills. Had nothing to do with that. So I being the marketer and then being someone who was always focused on the human side of our MSP anyway, I was tasked with figuring out how to turn this around. And so I know we're going to talk about a lot of that today, Uncle Marv, but I love that branding that you have, right, Marvin? It's like the tagline, the name, what rolls off your tongue, what's memorable. We needed to figure out how to become memorable and how to make sure that we didn't lose another client, because think that client was a car dealership. They were opening up a new dealership, a second lot, a second company. We lost that business. We lost that the whole project there. Referrals. We had to remove their testimonial. Think about what we lost.
Yeah.
Because we didn't care.
It's a lot.
That's where I started.
It's a lot. And some of the conversations I've had off air with people have been around, them asking me, even though I'm a boutique MSP, I've not grown to the $10 million range after being in business 28 years. But, I have a client that's leaving us sometime this year after 27 years.
Wow.
They're only leaving because it's time to retire. And, I
So
just sat in his office last week. We had a long conversation. This is the type of thing where you can't really X and O it all the time. But I mean, the meeting that I had with them was literally him asking me, Marv, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. Can you help? I'm
wow.
his IT guy. I'm not supposed to be able to tell him when he should retire or not, but the relationship that we've had over those years,
Right.
that's where, in my perspective, personal branding
Right.
is, in terms of how people view you and how people feel about you, even when you're not there.
That's perfect. That's a perfect example, Marv, about how your client needs you for more than just IT support. They're looking to you to be their business consultant and help guide their future. And that's the shift of what is happening in our ecosystem here in the channel is we can't just view ourselves as ticket closers, as a vendor. Those and because those MSPs are not going to get the deal over that MSP who views themselves as a business associate, as a trusted advisor. Maybe they're, selling their services as a VCIO or however they're positioning themselves, but we can't view ourselves as just a vendor.
Right.
We have to view ourselves as that business guidance person and learn about more facets of business. So and that's a beautiful relation, 27 years, and that's not unusual in our industry either. That's a beautiful testament to the branding that you have developed over the
Yeah.
years.
Well, I will say this, you were talking about how you guys got fired in the way that people felt when they called your office. One of the things that I learned at some point in my business is that I couldn't be the one answering the phone. Uh,
Mhm.
people see the show, they hear me, and they see me at conferences. Folks, that's not me 24/7. So there are days where it's rough, and I got to be in tech mode for a long time. So I have
Mhm.
somebody that answers the phone that clients are happy that she's the one answering.
Well, because that person, whether it's you or not, but the most important thing on this point is that you made it an intentional effort to ensure that the person who is on the phone represents your company the best way. Like,
Right.
as a first impression, we have set less than 7 seconds. We're so distracted these days. We are completely distracted society. We probably have 3 seconds to make a great first impression. And that phone call, that initial call, makes or breaks your brand, makes or breaks that lead conversion. And for us, we lost a client. I mean,
Mm,
it's you know, it was very costly and being intentional. So my whole premise is it's not easy to talk about, image and branding and communication skills. It's not fun, it's not sexy, but and then people say, "Oh, I already know this. I'm fine." That's what I hear that often. I already know this stuff. I'm fine. And so then my question is how often are you applying it? Who in your team is applying it? So it's such a critical component that I'm on a mission to make sure we really highlight in our industry.
yeah. So that leads me to I'm going to rephrase a question that I've asked you in the past that I
Mhm.
ask other people. And it usually is around the concept of what are the mistakes that you see happening out there that, you know, are causing people to not market themselves the right way or whatever. But it sounds like I should ask you this when you talk to those people and they are in that mindset of, I already know it, but yet they're the ones that are still complaining that their customers, don't understand or they can't get new leads and stuff. How do you approach those types of people?
I start with numbers. And so I say, let's have a conversation. We start with, well, who in your company is tasked with relationship management? who in your company. And then I say, but let's talk about the lifetime value of a client. And we have this conversation of, okay, say there's a client, I'm going to do very easy math, pays you $1,000 a month in MRR. Multiply that by 12 months, because we typically have contracts. Some MSPs are month to month, but typically a client will stay at least 12 months. Many of the clients will stay 3 years, 5 years. So then multiply that 1,000 a month times 36 months, you're at 36,000 just in MRR. Then you're looking at outside projects, and you're looking at setup fees or onboarding fees, whatever else you're doing. That one client that for 3 years could be 36, but most likely it's close to 6 figures. So I say, can you afford to lose a 6-figure client? Or better yet, wouldn't it be amazing to keep that 6-figure client and grow it and get referrals from it? Because having to onboard somebody new and the cost of marketing costs an MSP around $400 to $500 just to get the phone to ring. But to sign on a new client with all the staff and the marketing that's required and all of the hours that it takes, it's thousands of dollars just to close a new deal.
Yeah.
So think about the lifetime value of your client. What does that mean to your MSP? Think about the marketing expense. Can you afford to lose that money? Isn't it better to keep those clients happy and do what you can to make them happy? So it's not a message of should we do soft skills conversations and coaching and training. It's really, how do you implement it every day in your MSP? And
Right.
so we have that starting conversation.
So if you're watching the video, you saw me go over to the second screen and type. That's because exactly what you talked about, the value of a customer over a lifetime, reminded me of one of the first books I've got that I actually just poked, put up a couple of weeks ago. Carl Sewell wrote a book called Customers for Life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the books that I modeled. And it's exactly what you said, that, he's a car dealer is what he was. And he looked at the people buying his cars as a lifetime customer, even if they came back every 5 to 7 years,
Right.
or if, the husband bought the car, then the wife buys the car, then the kids buy the car. And he was valuing, a lifetime value. Now, this is in the 90s, so it doesn't sound like much, but $332,000 is what he valued every customer at.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. Think about 27 years of your client and the revenue generated from that client
yep,
and all of those years. And so
revenue,
now that
referrals,
client it grows, and
yep,
so now that revenue is going away. So how do you respond to that? How do you, obviously it's going to be marketing, it's going to be growing your existing client base and finding ways to grow them. So it's part of doing business. It's part of
is.
doing business.
So we've talked about the idea of, letting people know how are you, incorporating all of this into the daily operations and stuff. Do you have anything specific that you might tell somebody for free, that here's something you can start today without having to buy into some sort of program or marketing
Yeah.
system or whatever? This is what you can do now to get started.
Start looking at what your company stands for. What are your core values? Have a conversation looking at tickets, looking at client comments, and tying it all in. So for my MSP, our core values, a couple of them are being present and being client centric, being an expert. So when we see tickets closed, and we actually do surveys for our company, and we're constantly in a staff meeting talking about, wow, look at that, you made the client happy, you're aligning with this core value. So you're demonstrating to the engineer the value that they're bringing to the overall goals of a company. And so that's one area. If you're not having regular staff meetings with your entire team, I suggest starting there, and then talk about the success stories you're having, the tickets you're closing, not just as an issue, but turn that conversation around and start seeing those closed tickets as, wow, we just made our clients more efficient. We just made them more secure. We found a file. Like, we specialize in law firms, and sometimes a lawyer will call and say, I'm at court. I can't log in. I can't find a file. We just made them more efficient at court. Maybe we helped them win a case. So starting to have the other side of the tech conversation, which is what we do. We are a service business who specializes in tech. So that was the first thing we started with really having these all-person staff meetings and starting to have the conversation of value and how each person is as a valued member of client success. That doesn't cost anything. It requires time and commitment. Requires time and commitment for sure. But when we start having those conversations, then they start planting the seed of culture shift and a cultural awareness of respecting. My brand is all about respect, my brand method, and respect. You respect yourself personally. You respect the company that you work for. We all respect, it's like Secure Future Tech or whatever company you're working for, but then also talking about ways to respect your clients' companies and what they stand for and how you made their day better or more efficient, help them grow. Because at the end of the day, that's all our clients want. They don't understand tech. They don't need to hear about the bells and whistles. They want to know, how are you going to secure them? How are you going to make them more efficient, more productive? How can you make my team connected? That's what they want so that they can grow.
Right. All right. You started to mention your book. You talked about the R. So in referencing your book, Your Brand Unleashed, nice compact book, by the way. Let me say that. Easy read.
Thank you.
But without me asking you a question that sounds planted, what would you like to tell people about the book that should make them rush to go buy it?
I wrote this book as a guidebook to creating soft skills, conversations, and culture within your MSP. I wrote this book very intentionally. I'm so glad you said it's compact and it's an easy to follow book. That was by intention. I want you to read this book as if I am speaking to you, and I would love to coach all of you as well. That's a whole other conversation, but I want the book to be used as an onboarding process. Maybe you give this book to all your new employees. This is what we've established as the culture and the communication for our company. There's a whole plethora of success team exercises and exercises so that if you're asking, a lot of people say, I don't know how to have this conversation. I know how to talk about a ticket issue. I know how to talk about an invoice issue. I don't know how to broach this subject. How do I? And someone actually said to me at a Channel Pro event from the audience when I was on the stage, someone said, can you really change the culture of a company? And I told them, yes, absolutely. And that's why, because I changed my culture at my MSP. My culture was not one of thinking about it was thinking about relationship building, but customer service, you've got the minimums. You've got answering the phones. You've got creating a ticket and closing a ticket and going on site or doing remote. That's expected. But what keeps clients happy, and the reason why clients are asking you, hey, can you help me determine my retirement plan, is because you went above and beyond to really understand that person as a human, as a business owner, as whatever their industry is, really getting to know them. So that's what this book is all about. It's to help every single MSP in this industry know and have the confidence that every person is a leader in this industry. Every person in their company. So my definition of leader, Marv, is everybody has ownership for their role. You've got the owner of the company, you've got the managers or the director of, the service manager or the director of operations. But truthfully, everybody in an MSP needs to consider themselves a leader. And that's what this book is all about. How can everybody react intentionally behave as a leader? And that's your guidebook to success, and written just like I would be there coaching you in person.
All right. So just to recap here, I want to tell everybody the book, of course, offers a lot of practical strategies for branding and client retention. So it's not just this ethereal book about, hey, here's some concepts. These are things that are very practical, even when you're talking about the clothing
Yes.
in that chapter 5 there.
100%.
Let's go to chapter 7.
Love it.
Because you said that kind of fell right into the wheelhouse of what marketing and money is. So let's talk about that.
So chapter 7 is all about, it's N in the brand method. So B is behavior, R is respect, A is your appearance, that's clothing and posture, nonverbal behavior. N is networking, and D, by the way, is dynamic dialogue. It's how we use our voice, what we say, but how we say it. But when we talked about ideas for this podcast, and you said, the theme is money and marketing, can you fit that in? And I'm like, you bet. So my degree is in marketing. So there always is a marketing. This is like a supplement to all the lead generation that we're doing, because if you're bringing in all the leads, you need the humans. And chapter N, there's 3 pieces of marketing that are really critical to the success of an MSP. There's QBRs or TBRs, quarterly business review meetings, technical business review meetings, whatever you call them in your company, but meeting with your clients. So in the book, I give a strategy, I give an agenda, I give you, really a foundation if you're not meeting with your clients, how to meet with them, what to do, and what to say. There's another piece to networking, which is lead generation. And I know you had Paul Green on, and he talked about, marketing and really getting out there in your industry specific associations. For us, it's the bar associations. It could be, I also specialize in property managers at my MSP. So we do a ton of networking and property management associations. So I know there's medical associations, there's architecture associations. So all of that lead generation. And then the third piece, which is an untapped, it's not that it's necessarily untapped, but I don't believe that we give enough emphasis to this. And this is really making the case for branding. That's your engineers helping plant seeds and making recommendations in the sales process. So
you're going to have to explain that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for that opportunity. So here's a great example. When a client needs a new server. So my big story that really kickstarted this concept for us is Server 2008 end of life. We had a client who had that Server 2008 end of life, and it was end of life. And we, for over a year, said to the client, my sales team, you really need to update this. You really need to update this. Stop selling me. I'm fine. Stop selling me. I'm fine. How many of you listening to this podcast hear from your clients, I'm fine? It's like they see sales coming and they're like, stay away. I'm fine. Now, when you have a team of engineers that are not viewing themselves as sales, but understand their role in client success and understand their role as a leader, quote unquote, of their role and of how they behave, then they have great relationships with clients. They're considered the trusted day-to-day advisor. So a really big marketing component is having your engineers plant a seed. So we were racking our brains on figuring out how the heck to get their client to change, to make a move. They were going to, all the things, downtime, all the things, hacking. So we said, we're going to have our engineer who's their regular day-to-day engineer, not day-to-day, but their regular engineer. They know this person, they're comfortable with this person, unassuming. So the engineer at first said, I'm not sales, I'm not selling. And we said, no, let's have a conversation about this. What we need you to do is we would like for you to go and have a conversation and say to the client, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm concerned. And all those conversation starters, by the way, are in the book to help you. And so I'm concerned that your server is going to crash. I'm concerned that you are not going, you're going to get hacked. And so when you have that and you have that conversation, then the client said, okay, send the quote. Your sales team has been talking to me about this for a very long time. Like literally the engineer made the comment and bam, $20,000 project closed. So we said, we're onto something here. So it doesn't work every single time, but it begs the need to ensure that everybody in your company understands their crucial role in success and how they are there to help. What I call, it's an acronym. I use a lot of acronyms in the book to make learning easy, to make explanations very easy. And I call it plant the seed. So the engineer is planting the seed. Wouldn't we all love to have that extra support in sales? And we were like, oh, this is an untapped territory here. And so it was really a wonderful idea that has led to all kinds of upgrades. A client needed a new switch. A different client needed a new phone system. And we were able to solve their problem. So using our engineers as a supportive process.
Yep, I've done that myself. When a client had a server that basically all I had to say to them, they could care less about all the tech jargon. But basically, I finally had to say to them, you realize that if this crashes, the company's not going to support it. I can't support it. We can't get parts for it.
Right.
So how long do you want to be down until we bring in a new one?
We tried with our sales team, but they just weren't budging. But when the engineer did it, and maybe because you're their engineer also, Marv, it had more weight to it. It had more, validity. It felt less pressured and more empathetic and concerned. So there's a difference. And so our engineers are a critical component to networking. And if we don't view them as marketing success and groom our engineers, our team, to have these seed planting conversations and make recommendations, we're missing out on a great opportunity for our MSP, a great revenue opportunity.
Another thing I want to point out in the book, folks, that when you get it at the end of the chapter, there is a success exercise that basically says, now you try.
Right.
So
I want everybody to be able to apply it themselves.
Yeah.
That was thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely.
I try to help.
Great.
So that networking like a pro, and of course you talk about a bunch of tips to do when you go out to things like the chamber meetings. You give a list of conversation starters.
I do. I give a list of conversation because we're introverts. We're notorious for being introverts and would much prefer to be behind a screen. I totally get that. But we have to get out there and make connections to grow our business. And how do you do that? So that's by talking less about ourselves and learning more about the other person. And sometimes you get stuck in a conversation that isn't going to be the right person, that's going to be a good fit for your business, your MSP. I even give you an out. How do you say it? How do you respectfully bow out of the conversation? Because that happens in a networking event as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, a couple of off-topic questions about the book. Is there an MSP that's going to go in the book and say, "Hey, she's talking about me and my company"? Any of those in there?
There are clients. Yes, there is definitely a client in there that was very impactful. And yeah, my friend Mark, and he is the one where we talk about QBRs. One of his sales managers had a QBR and ended up getting a 100% increase. And it was amazing. And he used my process. He used the strategy that we coached on together. With Mark, I coached his entire leadership team, and we worked together on first setting goals. So the very first thing, and I probably should mention that when you ask, like, what's the first thing an MSP can do? And there's two things that, have staff meetings and start talking about this, just, bring it up. But the other thing is really to have goals for your company and set some clear targets as to where you want to go. And that's that's the second chapter of this book. And I talk about, going to the moon and setting goals. That's such a critical component. So that way you can relay those goals to the rest of the team, and everybody can have a clear focus of where we're all going and what decisions that we're making. Do those decisions align with our goals and align with our company core values? So that's what we did with Mark, and we went through a wonderful 6-month program together, and of really focusing in on how to really have this conversation, where to think, how to develop the confidence to have a lot of these QBRs and have these discussions amongst the team. We worked on some phone skills. So it was very impactful.
Nice.
Mhm.
Any parts of the book that were a little harder to kind of write where you're like, I didn't quite say that the way it should be said?
I think the hardest chapter for me to write was actually, and I procrastinated on this one, was the last chapter on social media. So most of this book is written very clearly based on human interaction, physical, like emotional intelligence, and how do we respond to people? How can we control our posture? How can we control our voice? Very intentional, and networking is one of my favorite things ever. And so those were chapters that I eat, sleep, and breathe. But for me, social media is a critical component to branding, but it's not always the most authentic. And so I have a love-hate relationship with social media. It's critical to success.
I think
And
we
it
all do.
really needs to say that again.
I think we all do.
I think we do, because we know we need to be there, right? You have to be there.
Yeah.
Are we always showing? And it's really a fine line of what you're showing, of what you're commenting on, so I made it into a strategy. We want to make sure, though, that our online presence is in alignment with our in-person. We don't want to surprise anybody with, if you're so polished and prepared in person, we got to make sure that we don't break that consistency online as well. And we want to share, we want to be social, but also be raw and real as much as we can. So I talk about, the social side of marketing. So I tried to do it as a strategy versus just, really. And I also gave some do's and don'ts of social media, of what not to post about. And so hoping that, because I don't want anybody to hurt their brand. I want everybody to be intentional to build their brand and build their credibility, build that trust, so we have that client loyalty, and be very mindful of how easily it can be broken.
Yeah. So I tried to, early in my career, the whole idea was to keep them separated, my personal life and my professional life. And I didn't let my clients see my personal life. Social media kind of took that away. And, they're seeing that. And this has nothing to do with anything, but I did. So I had a client that was an executive director leave that position, and she was at um, my office because we're doing another project together.
Mhm.
And she actually said, "Now that I'm not a client of yours, can I go listen to your podcast?" Because she actually took it to heart that when they found me online and they said, "Oh,
Right.
you talk about IT businesses." I said, "Yeah, but you don't want to hear that podcast because we talk about clients like you." So again, yeah, you have to kind of pay attention as to the message they get.
Well, you know what? And so I think all the messages that you're sending, anybody could listen to it because everybody's building a business. And whether so there's a lot of stories in this book there's that aren't necessarily just MSP focused, but it's a small business focus because small businesses in general, we all deal with the same struggles. So your podcast is a great alignment. Yes, it's got a technical bend to it, but there are still a lot of conversations on marketing, on business building and growing and all of that that will translate to any business. And
Yeah,
so, but it's true, but people listen to you too. But did you see how that she listened when you said you don't want to listen to it? She
yeah,
took it to heart. And that's a good trusted advisor where this person took your advice
mm,
and listened to you.
yeah.
Kudos to you for that. Very big kudos to
All
you.
right. So
Yeah.
you mentioned how my podcast could be geared towards anybody. Your book could be geared towards anybody. So I don't remember asking you this last time, but are you actually doing work with non MSPs?
hmm I
Okay.
have. I've done work with kitchen and bath companies. Most of my clients, I would say probably 85% of my clients are MSPs. I know this industry. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. I'm an MSP owner, so I bring a very targeted perspective. But there are companies that have come to me that said, we really need communication help. Can you help me?
Right.
And if, it's translatable. The industry is translatable, or the conversation of soft skills and communication. It's a matter of really understanding what industry I'm speaking to and me doing a great job hearing what the pain points are outside of the IT world. I know all of our pain points in the MSP world. I live it every day. I mean, it's almost 30 years now. So I get it on this side, but I've worked with medical spas. I've worked with kitchen and bath companies. I've worked with a national trucking company who does shipping and receiving, and they were having struggles with their phone skills. And so, absolutely.
All right. Um, I was going to ask you another off-brand question, but I think I'll save that one. It was gonna be if you stolen any tips from one company and used it with yours or with a client. So, but we can talk about that off air.
Okay.
All right. Well, folks, that is, I mean, that's all my questions. If you have anything else, but I was gonna make sure we mention your website, shoresuccess.com. And we're also gonna have a link to where you can go get the book off of the Amazon.
Yeah.
And, what else? Is there anything new besides the book that you
Well,
have?
I'm offering everybody here. I really want everybody to be open to the conversation of mindset and how our mindset impacts the growth of our company. And I want to shift people from thinking we're fine, clients are cheap, they only buy on price, they don't understand, to shifting some of that, what I call in the book, head trash. So I am offering, Marv, for everybody to download that one success exercise from the book. So the link will be available, I believe, in the show notes.
I can do
Um,
that. Yep.
but I would love for everybody to get started and get a taste of the book and how conversational and how applicable and how easy it is to apply. The key is consistency. And this is truly the differentiator. You're looking to grow your business, you're looking for sustainable growth. It has to come with loyalty and trust, and that starts with our team. branding our team, understanding the goals of your MSP, and how the team directly impacts the success, and how conversations of soft skills, empathy, emotional intelligence, varying our voice, nonverbal behavior, all of those strategies are critical. And I tell you how in this book. So I'm grateful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for offering that download. We will definitely make sure that that's in the show notes.
Thank
All
you.
right, folks, there you go. Lisa Shorr of Shorr Success, and she could be your personal and corporate brand coach if
Yes.
you reach out to her and want to get her information. And of course, the link to the book titled Your Brand Unleashed focuses
Okay.
on strategies for building strong client relationships and transforming businesses through branding.
Love it. Thank
Sweet.
you.
That's going to do it, folks. Be sure to sign up for following the podcast on itbusinesspodcast.com. Get us in your favorite podcatcher. Sign up for us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or the Facebook, that thing in social media that we love and hate.
Necessary though.
Necessary evil. That's it, folks. We'll see you next time. And until then, holla.
Hello.